We are recording.
Alright. We're gonna cut this. Welcome to the Why Music Podcast. The music conversations you want. Today we're back with you. Myself, Cloud, Pascanel, Thomas. I don't have a middle name. We got William, Hazel, Jason. Okay.
I don't know why you're on my government, but okay.
Yeah.
Michael.
We not saying my middle name, but that's cool.
Michael blank.
Yeah.
Etienne.
Yeah.
Alright. His middle name is Ariel. That's all.
Definitely.
I know a dude whose name is that. I'm not gonna say who. But welcome back. We're back. I don't remember what episode this is. We'll put it in the lineup later. But Why Music Podcast is sponsored by Musicians Local. Yes, that's Musicians Local. You could find them on Instagram at underscore musicians underscore local, or you could find them online at musicianslocalnyc.com for all your music needs. If you need musicians, a band, single musicians, sound, lighting, singers, anything you need for music, they got you. And they're a great sponsor, so go check them out on Instagram and give them a call if you have an event and you need music, live music, DJs, whatever. They got it all. Alright, so again, welcome back. Take a quick minute to subscribe and like our video. We appreciate that. Help the algorithm push us forward. And we're going to get started. Our subject today is getting paid as a musician. Getting paid. How do you get paid as a musician? You know, a lot of people think being a musician is you're automatically broke. You know, you're not making a lot of money, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times when it is that case, it's because you don't truly know how to manage yourself and your talent.
Hold on. Stand by. Technical difficulty.
Junior vibes.
Oh man.
Why did that happen?
I don't know.
Because I can't. Are you guys hearing? Because I'm not hearing anything.
I hear you.
Ah.
Why?
You know, it's a little bit short, so I wasn't hearing anything at all.
Oh.
Go ahead. All right.
Yeah,
So.
1 2 1 2
1 2. We'll just chop it up. We'll keep recording, but chop it up later. All right. Is everyone there?
Yeah, everybody's here.
1 2
All
1
right.
2.
Back to the topic at hand. Let me go out Mikey's space. All right. There we go.
Okay, so we're talking about getting paid as a musician, and how you manage yourself and your talent so that people don't take advantage of you. First of all, you know, and we're going to what's the basic rate
Mm-hmm.
for going for any going gig, regular gig. What's a basic rate? And sometimes after a certain amount of years of experience, you're not trying to make the base anymore. But that's another subject all its own. But how do you guys go about getting paid with your gigs? Because let's start with where we all started from, right? Church.
Okay, well, we can talk about that.
All right. All right. So like getting paid on your gig at church. When I first started.
We try not to call it a gig when it's church, but you're right. You're right. Continue.
No. We're not calling out nobody's names.
No. I know, but people in the church world get upset when you say gig.
Yeah, gig.
Oh, okay. I got you.
You call to service.
Ministry.
Yes. I remember the first time I got paid. I was I don't know how old I was, but it was $40 a Sunday, and I was playing there for years, right? And they finally started giving me like $40 a Sunday, and it's, mind you, before that, I always showed up most of the time for service 30 minutes before, make sure everything was set up, and oftentimes, because the old school dudes would tell me, yo, get there 30 minutes early, start playing something to set some kind of atmosphere, whatever service it is, so that when people walk in, they're not just chatting, they're already feel like there's something, the spirit is moving or whatever. I didn't always do it, but oftentimes, like when you get there 30 minutes, sometimes you're trying to fix things or put things in place.
Yeah.
You don't always have time to do it, but like I would do it whenever I could if there's nothing in the way. But as soon as I started getting paid, they started demanding that I do stuff I was already doing. And I'm like, I was already doing this though. Yeah. Like it's as if they never saw me do it before. Yeah. I'm like, I've been doing this. Yeah. Now they're like making it mandatory. You gotta work for this $40. You gotta be here at this time. And I'm like, I'm usually here before that time. That's number one. Yeah. So, barking up the wrong tree, but whatever. But that was my experience getting paid for the first time. $40 a Sunday. And they put their hands like, the grip was like getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But let's go with Mikey. Because
I mean, you kind of know how it was.
Yeah,
It took me like until I was like 18 to get
When did you start playing?
I started playing there when I was like 9, 10.
Yeah.
So it took me that long to get paid. And it was a whole conversation, like getting like a bunch of departments, a bunch of people like talking about it. So it took a lot for me to get paid. And they used the membership thing on me. Oh, you're a member of the church, so you can't get paid. It makes no sense.
You would want everybody to be a member of your church, even if you're paying them.
Exactly. Yeah. It took so much for me to get paid. Like it took me like leaving for like a year, and then people calling me like begging to come back, and then that's when it happened. Like they said, "Oh, we'll do 100 a Saturday." So that's when I was 18. I came back when I was 18. So they said 100 a Saturday. I was like, all right, then. Yeah, I found out other musicians were getting paid more. We're not gonna talk about that.
But it's your first experience.
Yeah.
You didn't know how to negotiate.
I didn't. Yeah, at that time I wasn't like into. I didn't even know how to negotiate my price or anything.
Yeah.
Plus that church, I mean, financially it wasn't doing well anyway, so I didn't have enough wiggle room. But yeah, that was the first time. It just took a lot for me to get paid.
Yeah,
like my parents stepping in. Yeah, my parents stepping in. The Treasury Department talking. For a couple months, it was way too much.
What were they trying to determine? Was it like, do we have the money to pay Mikey, or should Mikey get paid? Because it matters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're here like giving a service
Yeah.
and you practice hours and years to get to where you are,
Yeah.
so they can enjoy. I'm just wondering, are they thinking at these meetings, does Mikey deserve to get paid, or do we have the money to pay Mikey?
So do we have the money? That was the situation because financially they weren't doing good.
Mm-hmm.
But also before, like prior to me like leaving for a little bit, I was playing out other churches,
Mm-hmm.
and I was getting paid at other churches. So they kind of noticed that.
Yeah.
So that's when it became serious. But yeah, it was mostly like financial reasons.
Okay.
But I've heard like some people mention like membership, like I'm a member there.
If you remember,
yeah,
you're doing it for the glory of the Lord,
exactly. Yeah.
so you shouldn't get paid.
Yeah.
Don't the pastor and the elder get paid?
Yeah.
And are they doing it for the glory? I'm just saying.
No, let me correct you. Some places it depends.
Yeah.
The main pastor always is being paid because of the weight that they take on. However,
which is deserved.
The weight, which is deserved.
Yeah.
But the same thing for the musicians, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot say, if you want to go with new school, it's as simple as this. You have this person that spends hours, many hours over the days, over the week to make sure that whatever song, I'll talk about ministry, but let's not even talk about ministry. Let's just talk about facts.
Mm-hmm.
You have these 13 to 15 to however many songs that you have. You expect them to sound exactly like the record. You expect them to be played in every single key, which as musicians we always take that challenge on. However, we never know what key you're going to start singing in. So let's label
even
that.
After we practiced it
even
in
if
one
we practice
key.
it in one key, we have to know it in all keys.
Facts.
So you have 15 songs. Let's just say 15 in 12 different keys. So 15 times 12. We have to know that. We have to be ready and always ready to change and flow with, or quote unquote flow, because we can go into that as well.
Yeah.
But we do what's called for us to do, and we do it, and we do it well.
Yes.
That should not be a skill that's just supposed to be thought of as, oh, well, thank you and goodbye. That's on a new school principle. Let's go to the old school principle. If you are of the old school thinking and say that you are a Levite and you work for the church and you work and you're in the temple, then the people that also go to the temple are supposed to give their tithes, and those tithes are supposed to go and take care of the Levites. And if you are a Levite, then that means that you should be able to be taken care of based off of what's given in. So,
well, before you continue, for people who are not church goers,
I'm
Levites.
going biblically.
I know, yeah.
Sorry.
But biblically, Levites are the musicians and the priests of the
that take care of the temple of God.
Yeah.
So since they do take care of the temple, they don't do anything else. They require that input, meaning the food or money or whatever have you, in order for them to live or even to exist. And the moment that you're unable to do that, then you have to then go and find a job elsewhere, because just like anyone else, when you're hungry, you're going to want to eat.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what suffers is the upkeep, or what you would consider the music.
The music, yeah.
So I'm not going to learn all the songs and all 15 songs and all 12 keys. I'm not going to be ready and prepared when you want it to be ready and prepared. I'm not going to know how to make it quick. I'm not going to make those things appear like you don't even think about it. But we don't. We do a lot of work behind the scenes. We're not going to have time to do that, because just like everybody else,
we got families.
We have families. We have food that we have to eat. You know, we have to live.
Yeah.
That being said, I'll go into my history just slightly.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I don't remember the exact year, but I would think I was maybe around 9 years old. If you grew up in an old school church where you went to church every day, I mean from Sunday to Sunday, all days in between, I think if you grew up that way, you did not have that kind of aversion to death that other people have. I know it's weird, but like we had so many funerals because people naturally, you know, as people progress older or even younger, even if those are sad cases, but you get used to dealing with funerals and death and things of that nature. So yes, there's also weddings as well, but I'm just going on what my experience was. And I was asked to play. They knew I played for a long time by then, 9 years old. I don't have much memory, like I tell everybody else, of my time as a kid playing like little. But I do remember playing this funeral in particular, and I think I played what's that Richard Smallwood song?
Total Praise.
No, because it wasn't out yet.
I'll see you again. Is that?
It might have either been Jesus, You're the Center of My Joy.
Okay, yeah.
Or sorry, I'm having because it wasn't out. Total Praise wasn't out yet. You know, if it was out, I would have played.
Okay.
But
I'll Trust You, Holy Spirit.
It's all right. Either way,
yeah.
I played two Richard Smallwood songs. Like I faked the outro to one and then went straight into the next. And they were so impressed by that, and I guess by a little kid doing that at the end of the funeral. Like I just played for that one song as like the sermonic selection, I guess. And then I sat down, and then at the end of the funeral director called me over, and he gave me $150 and told me to give it to my mother. And it wasn't in cash; it was a check. And he said, if you ever want to play for the funerals, it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh wow!
I have no problem playing in funerals, but I guess they thought that was a little bit weird because it's a little kid. It's funerals all the time. So that was that. Not to say it didn't happen again, but that was that. It wasn't just as frequent as either one of us wanted it to be. But like 9 or 10.
Yeah, your parents are not gonna like.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was my first. I'll say it this way because it wasn't church. It was my first taste of saying, "Oh, I can do this and be paid for this, so I don't have to worry or stress anybody else out about money because I got my own money based off of something I literally was doing day in, day out." When I'm talking about kids would run all around, and I ran around. I was hyper too. I'm not gonna say I wasn't, but if I was watching TV, I was, for whatever reason, I was so hyper that if I watched TV, I had to practice while I was watching TV. If I was running around, I would run around and then sit down and practice more while watching TV. So I'm running around, playing with toys, watching TV, but still going to the piano because that's, I guess, in my mind, the best place in the house. Fine. Let's move to where I get paid again. So now I do. If we're staying with the church, I'll stay with the church. I'm trying to remember when I started getting paid with the church. We'll have to fast forward to much older because there was a formative time where I was playing at the church, but it was considered, you know what, just like Mikey, you're a member of the church, you're young, everybody else is playing, so you're on piano, and this was on drums, and this was on guitar. And it's like, we're not going to give you anything. And you're going to learn from this guy that's playing on the organ, and which I did. Let me always say that. Always look back to the OGs, and I'm thankful for them. And we did what we had to do, but we did not get paid. So then it became an issue because we knew that other people were paid while we were not being paid. And slowly but surely, as we aged out and became 18, and just like every church that goes through this issue, which is why I'm big on trying to see what can we do to retain the youth. At 18, I was able to hook up with a fellow friend of mine who knows who he is if he watches this podcast. And together, we said, oh, we'll go play over here. And thanks to him, he broke up his salary in half. And he took one half, and I took the other half.
Oh, nice.
And I would be on organ, and he would be on keys.
Yeah. And
then I think we switched, and he was on organ, and then we were on keys. And then I was on keys. Yeah. And we did what we could. The best that we could. We knew how to play. We knew what to play. But the only drawback to our situation was we left our churches, our home churches or our church organizations. And now we had to swim in a whole new type of organization. And neither one of us knew how to politically guide that route. I will say he did a lot better than I did. But lo and behold, towards the end, it kind of ended in a funky way. But that was around 18. The money was decent. The money should have been better, but the money was decent. We led a coup. We led a strike. And we were chastised. I will not incriminate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But we led a coup while the bishop of that church was not there, which I thought was not wise. I said we should do it with them there to make sure that they get the point and understand. This has nothing to do with etiquette. This has nothing to do with if they were nice and nasty. It was just an issue of
getting paid.
We were getting paid, but we wanted more, and we felt we deserved more, and we were doing the work for more.
Got you.
Subsequently, we were fired. But we stood our ground.
Mm-hmm.
I will never regret making that decision that day because it showed me that a church will pay whatever they choose to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that musicians should go for the greatest amount or to be selfish or to be greedy, but you do deserve what you make based off of the work that you put in. Regardless to what anybody else does not realize because they do not play your instrument. That being said, it taught me a valuable lesson. And I went on my way, and he went on his way, and everybody went on their way. As a matter of fact, everybody that was playing in the church that was born and raised in that church then left and started looking for other places because they understood that what we were saying was valid. It had nothing to do against
the organization,
but how the organization chose to practice what they were doing wasn't cool. So then we went elsewhere. I was gone for about 8 to 10 years, and I played at a lovely church that I still am very close to and love the people, love everyone there. And they took me in, and I was still young. So I got burned at that church and went to another church. So now I've gone from my church to another church to another church. It was like, oh man, you church hopping now. No, it's just the opportunity was there. Yeah. And I auditioned for the church, and I met some great people there. And I was able to grow musically as well as they were. Some that were there were already up there. And some that I brought with me were also able to grow immensely as well. So I have no regrets on that. However, even there, after a few years, the pay scale of what was being paid was not enough to sustain what I needed to do.
Yeah.
It has nothing. I think a lot of people think that when you demand or ask for pay, that you're thinking about it from a selfish aspect or looking for the highest number. And I think for most musicians, that's not the case.
No.
However, we will live on the bare. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Because I'm just agreeing with what you said. Because we usually, musicians as a whole, usually put in more work than we get paid.
Yeah, and we'll take the bare minimum.
And that's
even, a shame.
Yeah, and that's even guys who show up on Sunday and just play and leave. The preparation to get to Sunday is hours.
They don't see that.
It's
part.
like it looks like we just show up and play and leave, but when we're at home, we gotta cut time from family and be like, hey guys, I can't hang out with you guys. I gotta practice for Sunday. Your kids and whatever like that. Yeah. People don't see that. They think you just come and play like you magically just the songs download as soon as the singers start singing and you're just like, you're so amazing. No.
It takes work.
It takes work.
Even once it's easy, it's still work.
Yeah. Yeah. And people like I was trying to add to what you were saying, like I feel like organizations take it personally. Like it's a personal attack on them.
Yeah.
When you want more money for what you're giving out, and it's like, it doesn't make sense for you to even go that route because if I'm doing rehearsals, I'm doing rehearsals with the praise team. I'm doing rehearsals with the choir. Not just that. You're doing rehearsals with the praise team. You're doing rehearsals with the youth choir. You're doing rehearsals with the children's choir. You're doing rehearsals with the men's choir, and then the adult choir, the usher board,
for special
events, and soloists or whatever like that. Yeah. You're doing all of this, and people are looking at you like you're not doing nothing. It's like, what do you mean I'm not? Like, you don't see the amount of hours and days I gotta put in.
Don't miss a rehearsal.
And don't miss a rehearsal. You come from your 9 to 5. You manage to
because
eat
once
with your
again,
family.
the Levites are not being taken care of. But go ahead.
Yeah.
So you have to get another job.
Exactly. You come from your 9 to 5. You manage to eat quickly with your family, and then you gotta go to either rehearsal, or you gotta go practice, or you at least gotta listen to the songs, or you're communicating with all these heads of different choirs and groups, so they can give you the list of what they want, and then you gotta put your input. It's a back and forth, and like it's more than a full-time job.
Yeah.
But they don't see none of that. None of that. And a lot of people feel like this is just your job. It comes with, no, it's not just my job.
Yeah.
It's work. It's work.
Mm-hmm.
And to get up there and do all of that, like the MD where I am now, right? I had to call him. I said, yo, you're doing too much. Because while on stage, you're dealing with the choir, you're dealing with the praise team, you're dealing with the sound guys, you're leading the band, you're communicating with the pastor and all. I'm like, yo, give the click track.
Yeah, let somebody else run the click track.
Let somebody else run the click track because you have so much going on, you got to go log in and do all of this, and there's a huge delay between songs because you're overwhelmed. Yeah. And it's not because you're not doing the best you can, but you're just overwhelmed, and everybody's looking at you, and nobody notices that, yo, this guy needs help.
Yeah.
You know, unless you've been an MD, which I've been, which is why I was like, yo, bro, you're doing too much. These people, they're overloading you with work and not getting paid. If you're anywhere like Broadway, not even Broadway, anywhere in any type of event space that you're doing outside the church, if you're putting the amount of hats he's got to put on, you got to get paid separate money.
Thousands.
For each one. Thousands, bro.
Of dollars.
Yeah.
For one day.
Yeah.
For one day. Man, Drew, you're doing it year round.
Yeah.
And people get upset when you ask for more money, as if like you're trying to cheat the church. You're trying to steal from the church.
It's not stealing from the church. It's simple as what it is.
Exactly.
If you were a plumber and you went into the church and had to fix the pipes, in order to get the pipes, you had to tear through the wall. In order to tear through the wall, you found one problem and turned into 5 problems. They're charging you for all 5 problems.
All 5 problems.
They're fixing that wall as well if you want it fixed, or they can leave it open for you. For you to pay somebody else to then put it back together. The same concept that you have of that, because you need plumbing in your church, right? Yeah. The same way you would need that for a heat if the heat stopped working, or HVAC, or for air conditioning. It's the same thing for everything else. Why is it that when it only comes to the music, it's like, well, we not only should we not pay the people, but people that are not qualified in music seem to have more say than the people that are qualified in music. But you don't do that to the plumber. You don't do it to the HVAC system person. You don't do it to the carpenter. You don't do it to anybody else that has more than just a skilled trade, but a skilled trade.
Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
I want to sing unto the glory and honor of God. Understandably so. Have you done anything to train that voice for you to sing? No. Okay. So we put the cart before the horse again.
Yes. 1-2 punch.
Sorry.
No. I like where you're going with this, because I've been in places where people were in charge of the music department
that had no idea
about music. And I'm like,
because everybody wants to be recognized as if they were something or somebody without the actual work of doing that something to become a somebody. Now, I'm not saying in a derogatory way. What I'm saying is, if you are unwilling to put the work in, you don't deserve the title of what it is.
Yes.
Now, if you're willing to put the work in, that's different. Even if you got it under false pretenses, I can show forgiveness or work with it, seeing that you'll put the effort in. But not only are you not qualified, you do not want to put the the effort or your work ethic will not get to where it is it needs to be done. Because one thing all musicians have in common, all decent, good musicians, is that not only are we good at what we do as far as how we play, but we have a great work ethic to get the work done
and to get better.
To get better, and to always seek to get better than what better was. You're not gonna get that from everywhere.
He's hitting me with memories of places I've been to. You know, when somebody, like that part when you said when somebody doesn't know anything about music, and I'm sitting there like, why are you in charge of me? Why? I'm telling you, this is how it works. You're telling me it doesn't work that way. You have no musical training. All I know is you've been you've been in the church since you were a child, and somebody gave you the position somehow because they needed to be filled. I understand when there's nobody else who had the knowledge. It's cool. Somebody has to do it. But when you have somebody who has good knowledge, extensive knowledge of the subject, it does not make sense for you to still be in that position. It does not make sense to send your children at the church to college to get all these degrees, become accountants and lawyers and doctors, and everybody in that church still goes to all the other doctors. The same old guy who's been doing the church treasury since he was, however, is still in charge of it, and none of the kids with the accounting degree are even anywhere near the treasury. How does that make sense?
Doesn't make sense.
And then you keep complaining the church doesn't have money. You don't have the proper knowledge to grow this. Let somebody who went to school for it at least be an apprentice, so that be willing to learn, so that they could be like, hey, you guys sacrifice for me to go to school. Let me help you with what I've learned based on the sacrifice and support you've given me. Let me give back. Everybody's afraid to lose their position, and you sit there like, I'm telling you, you're a soprano. Why do you stand by you're a alto when you can't keep the alto melody? Or vice versa.
Yep.
It's like, why are you an alto trying to sing high?
Not sopranos.
Yes. Why you? And when you try to hit them with the different types of sopranos, they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, see, you don't even know. You don't even know where your voice range is, but you're telling me you're this. And I sit here, and you sit there, and you go home, and there's something we had a clip about, just the drainage that happens after you get off stage and you go home, and you sit there and you're watching people do absolute nonsense, which I call operating under the annoying. Just absolute nonsense. And you sit there, and sometimes they're like, yo, play some shout. And you're like, this is not a shout moment. Like, give me some preacher chords. He doesn't know how to hoop and holler.
He's teaching. And honestly, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Go into it, bro. You sit there, and people who don't know how things work are telling you, go. And you're like, no, it doesn't work. No, this is not the place where I put this type of music. And you're like, no, we want this. And then you sit there, and sometimes they signal the pastor, and the pastor signals you, and you're just like,
I'm going to say it. It's a hot take. It's a very hot take.
Go ahead, bro.
That hooping and hollering preaching, that mess went out in the year 2004. And we have been holding on to it and just keep going with it as if it makes sense.
That's facts.
And the thing is, and the problem is, we have now made it such a tradition that we don't realize. So you remember how when you're young and all the young people always get so mad about tradition. Like, we're going to break it. We're going to break the tradition. We're going to break the tradition.
With no direction, though.
No, not even without no direction, but we always say the same thing. And then what happens is, as you get older, you realize our old heads, our elders, also were doing the same. They were also trying to break tradition. And you do break tradition a little bit.
Yeah.
But as you get older to where we are now, where we're in the 40s, and it's like, oh, you know what? Thinking really hard about it, the hooping and hollering thing worked for the time of the 90s. Maybe, before then, but it died out towards the end of the 90s to the 2000s. Now you're in a society where they don't want to get yelled at. Don't yell at me. And the young people are telling you, don't yell at me. And instead, you're going to cater to the 50-plus crowd or the ones that are just traditionalists, which is the hot take. You're a traditionalist that you enjoy being yelled at in order for you to get a message. And sometimes, I think, honestly, in the word, most times that you get a revelation, it's not yelled at you. It's very small, still, and quiet. The same way you're supposed to pray, but I won't get into that because that's another hot take.
Oh, Lord
but
Jesus.
The Bible says what you're supposed to do in order to pray. It shouldn't be some loud, boisterous thing, but I digress because then we're going to go into a whole different thing. We want to stick to the music.
Yes.
But that's my hot take as far as
Oh, man.
I got some thoughts.
as far as being a musician and people trying to say what's what versus what's not. Let the musicians decide on that.
Yeah, that's why you have a MD, a musical director, and some places have a music pastor.
Yeah.
And some music pastors are not music pastors. They're just, you know what I'm saying?
Or what I will say, if you are
not musicians, I should say.
You should, if you are put in that position, you still have a course to fix everything that God has given you. So if He's giving you the ability to learn, then if you are not studied, then you should study to show thyself approved.
Yes.
And then learn and do that. So I'm not harping or crapping on anyone that is in a position that they should not be in, because plenty of people have been put in positions that they should not be in, and they make it work. What I will say is that in the church, if you know that's the case, study to show thyself approved.
Yeah.
Now I know it's difficult. Trust me, I know it's difficult, because all of my musician people, all of the people in the world. Even though I could literally say, hey, I've played for the president. Hey, I've done this. Hey, I've toured around the world. Hey, I've gone to different continents and played. Some reason at your home church, just like Jesus, it's like, let another musician
have your same resume.
Not even have you, not even
or
the
less.
Same, not even the
they
same.
Get
resume.
so much more respect. It's like, oh my God, this is my church. You guys seen me grow up. No respect.
And now I will tell you, yes, I am in my feelings with that. I currently live through that right now, where it's like, oh, get so and so to play. He's been on this show. I'm like, I've been on this show before it was the show. The person that hosts the show, I actually worked with privately in studios. I actually work with her protege right now. I'm so I didn't mean to say her or whoever, but personally, it annoys. You've actually worked with her protege as well.
Yeah.
So it annoys me that it's like, oh well, this one is so high and mighty, but that's him. But him over there, that's been there forever. That actually has studied and done everything he needs to do. It's like,
yeah. That's just what.
Don't listen to what he's saying. He don't know what he's talking about. He don't know music. He can't even play.
You can't make this up, though.
But the reason I say this is because I'm not saying it because I'm trying to just make stories. Cloud has been a witness to that.
Yeah. Oh, bro.
So
should I say it?
Yes.
Oh, bro. He couldn't make an event because he had to play somewhere, right? And it was booked prior, so he couldn't say no because
months
he already
ahead of time. My corporate events, my private events are this is business.
Yeah, and then the church decided, what did you do? Churches it'd be last minute, like, oh, we're gonna do this. It's like no preparation, and they expect him to break his contract because it is a contract that he's already signed and said he's gonna do. And play. So he asked me to play, right? So I go in and I play, fill in.
Does a great job. Go on, continue.
I followed the singers.
Yeah.
Yo, thank God for my upbringing, cause like, starting the song in C and ending the song in F sharp. all that happened.
Learn all your keys.
The tempos were supposed to be this way for the song, and then they started then, and it just went, and you're just like, let's bring this back up here, and then they took it right back down. And it was a up and down roller coaster, but beautiful, wonderful people. I'll give them that.
Yeah,
like kind, like loving people.
We're talking about music.
Music though,
they're not musicians.
Nah.
Yeah.
At the end of it, one of the ministers, I think he's one of the head.
No.
Or
we're not putting people on blast.
Okay.
You might have to.
Well, at the end of it,
we're gonna have to scrub out that title.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, somebody approached me to get my phone number to try to hire me to take his place. And I told them, well, if you want to get in contact with me, you gotta go through William. William will let me know when he needs me to come here. They didn't like that too much. But you get that kind of treatment like at home. This is family. And you would think family would have your back, and the least person who comes in or whatever, they're just like, yo, if we need you, if you need me, get him to call me. And I'll be here. If he calls me, I'll be here. Yeah. If you, I'm not even giving out my number, so you can't call me.
Just to clarify, not only is that on a friend level, not only is that on a musician level, but I'm also the musical director at the church.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So that's in everything. The reason that any musician steps through the door is because I've already I vetted them. I know, and I want them to do what the best that they can do. And I'm not sending just any old body. As a matter of fact, that's my my business model. Even when it comes to the church, and I might not charge for this, but outside in the world, there's a charge for that. Yeah. I make sure that I send the right people to the right place for the right job. And if I do that, that means I hold the person in high regard to do the job that's necessary. That's all I want to say with that.
Yeah, man. So I would say, I think one of the best situations I've been in, as far as when we were talking about people who are on top of you that don't know music. Yeah. One of the best situations I've been in was at a church where my boy was the head of the music department. We all know. Shout out to Jonathan. Jonathan, I'm not gonna give you your government, but you know. Shout out to Jonathan. Because he had a plan. Yeah. And I was more than happy because like he is a musician himself, right? Producing and all of that. Yeah. But he had the level of understanding that I have never seen in any church in a music department. Yeah. You know, he had the idea of, okay, we're gonna have this band here, and people are not going to stay in the same position forever. I want you guys to grow. As you get better, we'll get people under you that's training. Yes. They get the position. You move on. We'll create something else for you to do, but you'll move on in the music department some other way, or you might end up in another department, but whatever. But you're not going to be on the band for the rest of your life as they've had it before, where like the guy who's there is just the guy who's there. Yeah. Like no,
even though the music has changed.
Even though the music has changed, even though there's all these young guys who are sitting there waiting for their opportunity to minister and to be part of the. And there's this one guy who's just doing it this old school way, and he had that kind of thing in mind. Yeah. It didn't quite work out because when you're dealing with older people who are set in their ways, no matter how, and he had great relationships with all the elders. Yeah. He was also the pastor's son, but he had great relationships.
Well, not everybody knows who you're talking about, but go ahead.
Not everybody, but he had great relationships with all the elders. Was whatever, but like people have a way of holding on to traditions even when they don't work because they're used to it.
Yeah,
and
tradition. Like, yeah, the same thing about hooping and hollering.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. But it goes back to the statement I said earlier, where it's like you don't realize that's why you have, or I'll say this is one avenue where you see the chasm that comes up between the ages of 18 to 40, where you lose all those young people because they were itching and hungry to be a part.
Yeah.
But because you have this same person, you shut them out. And the person may not even be wanting to shut them out. They even may be wanting to help. But you just want it to be the way that you want it to be.
Yeah.
And what has happened now is because of that, they leave and go somewhere else. If they continue pursuing music, great. If not, they don't even do that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know a lot of guys who were great musicians who just because they had to work, they just stopped. They're like, man, I wish I could get back. I wish I could do this, but like,
I'm not gonna make no money anyway. It's not gonna be worth it. It's not. Oh well, why don't you just do it as a service to God? Okay, why don't you go to work and not use anything and not get paid for it?
Yeah. And another thing is sometimes they let the young people operate in that gift.
Yeah,
but
they're not.
They want them to operate in it the way they want them to operate. It's like you have no real self-expression. You have to play it this way, otherwise you get people talking behind you and people they humor you to some degree, and then you might be walking by and then you hear some kind of comment when they didn't know you were walking by coming from the bathroom. You like, and they look at you like, hey. You get those experiences and it's like, wow, this whole time.
Yeah.
So
getting paid is tricky. Getting paid is tricky. We didn't even
That's
go
in the
into
church. We didn't even go into the world.
Yeah. We didn't
honestly, no. I'm gonna fast track that. In the world, it is simple.
It's simple.
What is your rate? This is my rate.
Mm-hmm.
They either say yes or they say no. I'm sorry, I can't do it for this rate. And you say, not a problem. If you know them personally, or if you want to work with them personally, you can ask, well, what rate can you offer?
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, okay, I will see if we can go for this rate. Or you say, hey, it may not be my normal fee, but if you can do it for this one, just so that we can work together and you can see what I bring to the table and what we can do together.
Yeah.
If you like that, maybe the next time you can go up to my rate.
Yeah.
That's the world. It is the simplest of negotiations. It's just about having the balls to stand up for the rights of what you feel that you deserve. And standing on it. Now, that's not to say you couldn't do that with school, because you can do that. I was going to say with church. However, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and because of so many cooks in the kitchen, it makes things very, very difficult.
Departments.
However, the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere else and be paid what you're asking for.
See,
you can go somewhere else and be paid more than what you're asking for.
Sometimes I've been in situations, where I've given a rate, and I told him I gave that rate. He's like, "What are you doing? Like this, the base rate for what you're doing right now is higher. Is like at least $200-300 higher than you told these people you're gonna do it for."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, okay, it's your first time, I understand, but like, remember, like next time you don't go any less than this.
Yeah.
Because people will take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And in the world, in the church, they'll do it as well. So I'm not even making that excuse. But anywhere, they will take advantage of you if you don't speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy can't do it for you.
No.
Big bro can't do it for you. OG can't do it for you. You got this is one area where you got to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Know your worth.
Yeah.
So have you ever had to negotiate your rate with a church?
Yeah.
We spoke about how our first experience where they just kind of like, all right, this is what we're giving you, which later on, after years of playing, you started thinking, wait a minute, if I am the one who's, let's say if this is business, I have the product, I set the price,
You're the buyer. How are you telling
How
me?
you telling me what you're gonna pay me to do it?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It didn't click till I got older, and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How are you gonna tell me this is what we're paying you? I've done revivals where it's like a whole month-long revival, and they're like, yeah, we're paying you $800. Like, $800? One night is $250.
Mm-hmm.
You asking me for 30 nights?
Yeah.
Well, not 30 because on Saturdays they didn't do Saturday nights
Yeah.
or whatever it was, or
So
Sunday
all
nights.
the other days.
So all the
minus
other
four,
days.
-4.
-4.
Mm-hmm.
How much am I getting paid? A fraction of what I get paid on one day on Sunday? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And when you say that to them, they're like, "Well, that's what we have."
Okay.
And then you get
you
mad
somebody-
if I say I can't
I
do
can't
it.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, what was the first? My first negotiation actually was with what was the church? This American church in Brownsville, and it actually went really well because at the time I actually didn't know what rates were. I was that's my first time leaving my home church.
Yeah.
And the bishop there was like, listen, okay, how much do you want? And I gave a number. I don't remember the number it was or whatever. He said, okay, well, we can't really do this number right now because the church was like a really small storefront or whatever. He's like, we're still building or whatever.
Yeah.
He said, all right, so we can start you at this much. And then within 6 months to a year, we'll see if we can add to it incrementally till we get to what you wanted. And I was like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
This dude was like the coolest bishop I ever met. You know what I'm saying? And he's in North Carolina now, but like, it was nothing I wanted that he would, if he can do it, it was just like, yo, you need this for your ministry, let's get this.
Mm-hmm.
If we can afford it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, it was awesome. The other experience I had was with, shout out again to Jonathan, which was really smooth because he was already a musician. He already knew, he was a musician. His brother, his family had music. He understood how it worked. So it was very easy. Like, okay.
Super producer.
Yeah. It was very easy.
Yeah.
And it was really smooth. I've had bad experiences.
Yes.
I've had that experience.
I had bad experiences. And you're saying yes because you know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where I'm not gonna say the names of the church or the denomination or whatever, but it was like $75 every weekend. And
you had to wait for that $75?
You had to wait.
Why do we have to wait?
Yo,
somebody on the other end that knows exactly what we're talking about. Why do we gotta wait,
bro?
And I mean no disrespect. I have to ask that question. If your service lets out at say 1:30, why am I waiting until 3:00 for $40?
Yo, bro. And another thing is when they had special services which would run till 3:30.
Yeah.
You ask for an extra 50 or 25, and they're like, no, "What are you talking about?" Like, everybody else was here. Like, why do you get more? I'm like, this is at my home church. You guys hired me for this block of time. When you go over it, you get a surcharge. That's how everything works.
Yeah.
And I remember, the drummer going to bat. Like, he would go to meetings after meetings and just, he would come out steam trying to get at them. Like, yo, listen. He even said, yo, I told you guys not to pay me so you could pay him. How is it that you're not paying me?
They should have paid you both.
And you're still not paying him what he's supposed to get. And now he's doing extra hours and you still not. Where's the money that you're supposed to pay me that you're not paying me anymore?
Yeah.
Or we don't have. How do you not have it? Because if I asked for you guys to pay me, you would have paid me. So where's this money now? It was just bananas.
No,
it was bananas. Those are my experiences. This of others I don't remember. Oh,
with the exception of one.
Church banquets. Free. Here's your plate of food.
Yeah.
For the glory of God. Of God.
No, thank you. I don't even like tofu.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say with the exception of one, two.
Uh-huh.
There's some great pastors out there. Let me say that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Because I had a bishop that took me in, paid me a fair rate.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been a little bit higher, but that's not on him. But the trade-off was, I did get guidance from this person. I got guided me through life, and I don't want to say like the whole spiritual father thing, because I don't like that whole spiritual father thing. I don't like that either. But as far as
God is your spiritual father,
I agree with you. What I will say though is that to have a mentor that actually gives a what about you, I definitely appreciate, because what it did was it helped me to navigate through life and build my own family, build my own house, build my own. It wasn't just let me just keep this person in the back, or let me just make this person.
Give him enough so he don't leave.
Yeah, give him enough so he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
But actually said, okay, let me help and help.
Yeah.
Help. H-E-L-P. Actually help.
I know what you mean.
And then what happened was subsequently, yes, I was able to say, okay, I found somewhere else that would pay me a little bit more, because I have a wife and family to take care of. My responsibilities are now here. I cannot accept just getting this much. So I have to do what I have to do here. But what I'll say is, for him, that's the only exception. Everyone else, it has been, we have to negotiate what I'm worth, because just like you said, I'm bringing the product to the table.
Yo, like the bishop I was talking about from Brownsville, he's now in North Carolina. Shout out to him, because I wasn't getting what that I asked for, whatever like that. But not only did he negotiate for things to get incrementally better, which I really didn't have any issues at that church. When it was my birthday, it was almost like a festival at that church, because everybody would cook. I would walk into church. They surprised me one day, and I was like, yo, the whole church stayed and had a cookout, barbecue and whatever. But the thing about him was, it'd be 3 a.m. I would call this dude. His wife would pick up. Yes. Oh, you want to talk to Bishop? Pass him the phone. This dude would stay on the phone with me until not trying to say phrases to cut it off or whatever, until anytime because he wasn't getting paid from the church at the time, so he would be at work and he would call me and check and say, hey, how you doing? Did you take care of this? Did this happen this way? And I'm like, man, even to this day, I haven't been at the church since for over probably 15, 10, 20.
It's the same around here.
And he still calls me. He makes sure he calls me twice a year, every year. How are you and the wife and the kids doing? How are you still playing? How are you doing? You know, if I'm coming to New York, I need to see you. Come see me here, whatever. Always. And I'm like, man, people could rag on pastors all day, but I know some guys who are not in it for the title at all. They're in it for souls. He still calls every member that was at that church every year. He's like, hey, have you heard from this person? I try to call them. I want to see how they're doing. Can you check on them for me? And they're not even in the church anymore. I don't know, man. I've had some bad experiences, but I've had some great ones as well.
Some great ones,
So, pastors get a bad rap a lot of times. It's just like cops. You get a few cops that do some stuff, and then everybody's a bad cop. You know what I'm saying? And
when it comes to church, it's the pastors and the musicians that kind of they work hand in hand, and then there's the other side as well. But it shouldn't be its sides, but it really is. It's like the pastors and musicians, and then you have the deacon board, the trustee board, the executive board, and then the pastors that go between one side, but it shouldn't really be.
Yeah. Pastors and musicians get a bad rap. I think some of the blame got to be put on them chicks who be coming to church like they going to the club. Y'all be a distraction.
Now we going into opinions.
I'm just saying, you know, let's have some accountability across the board, man. Like, whatever. Let's go back to the money. Yeah. Yeah. So, what was your first negotiation?
I don't remember, but it took me a while, like up to like recently, to like start negotiating rates and anything. Because I was just taking whatever I was given. So, and I didn't even know.
They love you when you do that.
Yo, I was.
Oh man.
It took me a while to even notice that. I was getting underpaid, you know. So.
Yeah, we're not discussing numbers on here on purpose, but I think that in your circles, you should discuss the numbers.
Yeah.
The little homie should not be working for free.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was like up until recently, like I started, branching out, played at, CCM type churches where they take like money kind of serious, and then the conversation will be had about like rates and stuff, but. It took me a while to even know, like, how do I negotiate my rate? Like, what am I worth? Like, I didn't even know. So, yeah, but I think it was up until, like, recently. Even the Sunday church, I just started playing that. Like, that conversation was had, like, for about, a couple of days. They asked me what my rate was.
Versus 9 years at your home church?
Yo, we not gonna Nah, but like they asked me first what my rate was. I gave them a price, and then they said, okay, we could do that. And then within weeks, they gave me more than I asked for.
Wow.
So that situation where I'm at right now is a blessing, honestly. But it took other musicians to tell me, like, bro, you're way better than what you get paid for. Like,
yeah, you can't get paid the same as the guy who only knows how to do doom 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 doom. When you put in all these hours and you're doing all the other stuff, all the hits and all that, you can't get paid the same as that guy.
You're actually learning the songs.
Yeah.
Especially if like life is getting serious. Bills being bills got to be paid.
Yeah.
So I had to like stop settling for like less than what I was worth.
I feel you.
You can't survive on zero.
Nah. So let me ask you guys a question. What would be a good metric? Because there's some guys who are in his situation like, yo, how do I come up with how to create a rate? What would be a good metric of deciding personally how much do I charge?
I'm gonna go. I don't have a number like I said I would. I'm not gonna give a number. What I will do though is go back 10 years. If I go back 10 years, I can definitely tell you that I wasn't playing anywhere for, and this is friend or foe, no less than $250. Because I can make money somewhere else doing something else for about $250.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then the bare minimum would be there. If you then have additional work where I have to learn a whole bunch of songs, where I have to do a whole bunch of things, then it has to go up.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would go up about 150 from there. And from there, that would be what?
400.
And then from there, I would say, okay, do I have to lead the situation? Do I have to? If it's just to play, then it's to play. If I have to lead the situation, if I have to teach the parts, if I have to know everything to go anywhere and do anything else, it'd be 500 and up from there.
If I got to travel with the pastor or with the choir.
Let me say that was 10 years ago, and that was in the church. Outside of the church, and I'm not talking about a spot bar gig that you do or a gig that you would do some random spot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like corporate events, the bare minimum would be at this point 500.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now that entails, let's say, 100 and something songs. I
Mm-hmm.
know it sounds like a lot. This is just talking about
Yeah.
that industry.
Yeah.
Mm.
You go
Learn
through
them.
them so fast.
You do go through them fast, but learn
Yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you get what you get, especially if you last in that industry, the longer that you're in that industry, is based off of the fact that you know
Mm-hmm.
these records.
Mm-hmm.
So 500 is the minimum that you would get,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes up from there.
Yeah.
And then if you're traveling, it should be more. And if you have to fly somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
it should be more.
Mm.
And if you have to go overseas, it should be more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever that more is for you, you can sit with it and be good with it. No one is judging you on it.
Mhm.
However, what I will say is, you have to live your life, and if you are older, you have to provide for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, then you whatever it is that you do, whether music, whether plumbing, whether whatever it may be,
Yeah. You gotta.
you have to
charge
make sure
appropriately.
that you have to charge appropriately.
Mhm.
Because the truth of the matter is, no matter how much money you're getting paid, if you are actually taking care of home and taking care of life, then more than 90% of it is going not to your pocket,
Yeah.
but to take care
To
of
take
your
care.
household.
Yeah, but let's rewind, right? I remember when I was in college,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
the church would have events
Yeah.
during the week, and you're expected to be there, especially if you're the only keyboard player. Like, you can't just not be there,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to college, you're not paying me even $150, right?
Yeah.
I gotta study, I gotta do these, take care of myself because I don't live at my parents' house anymore.
Mm.
I gotta do all these different things because I know there's guys in that situation right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, yo, you
No.
guys want me here. Now, mind you,
Don't do it. Say no.
you say,
Continue.
mind you, my thing is like you getting this
Run.
pressure from the organization, right? Meanwhile,
It's not real.
you're watching the pastor's own family not show up unless it's Sunday.
Because they have to work and have other obligations.
Exactly.
That's
But
what I said.
you,
The
they're
pressure's not
blaming you, they're pressuring you to, yo, if you're not there, blah, blah, you're getting all these speeches, and you're just like,
It's
wait
not
a minute, your
real. Yeah.
kids are not here.
It's not
Where
real.
they at?
Yeah.
So, when you're in that situation,
If
Let's-
they ain't paying,
exactly,
no
It's-
means
it's
no.
it's safe to say that bare minimum in 2024, it's got to be 250.
Mm.
It's 250. If you're a young guy who's
Or
just
higher.
or higher. Yeah, but like if you're a young guy who's just who's getting in, 250 is the base.
Mm.
This is, I don't call it industry standard, but it's industry
Yeah.
standard 250, not 150.
I don't agree to this statement of the number that he said, but continue.
Okay, what would you say?
I said I'm not going to say a number, but I don't agree to
Okay.
that. But go ahead.
You think it's higher?
It should be higher. Everything else is higher. You can't even buy fruit.
Inflation. Yes. Yup. Inflation. Yeah.
That's deep.
Gas. All time.
That's true.
The
I
gas
didn't
that you
think of
pay,
that.
the parking that you
I
got to
didn't
pay
think
in the
of that.
parking lot,
Yeah.
the payment plan that you're on because you know you can't afford to buy Chronos, which is not even Chronos anymore, it's the Nautilus. Or whatever Nord keyboard that you're now spending an extra $2,000 on. that you
Yo,
didn't need to.
and the
Go
church
ahead.
don't have a keyboard. You gotta bring your keyboard and your bass
And your amp.
and your amp
And your amp.
Yup.
and your cables and your stand and your sustain pedal
Yeah.
But if you dare to show
and your
up,
computer with Ableton, you gotta pay for.
but dare to show it without Ableton, dare to show it with an old school
Casio.
MKS 80, MK80 with old school heavy PV amp.
Uh-huh.
Let's see what happens.
PVM.
Oh,
And let's see what happens.
Uh-huh.
Because you would look at that person like they're crazy. Like, why would you show up with that to
Yeah.
play?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And they let other musicians who are visiting play your instrument, but will not cover if anything happens
If
to
anything
it.
happens to it,
Yeah.
they don't care about the insurance. They don't care about.
you're
They
right.
don't think about
Right.
any of those things.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think
For
about all that.
$250?
I did not think
Yeah.
about that. I didn't think about that.
Mind you, you got to be the first one there and the last one to leave.
Uh-huh. I didn't think about that. Wow.
Wow. Mm.
So you guys see the amount of stuff musicians have to have to not just do but
Some.
deal with. Some musicians.
So yeah,
But,
some
you know,
have to- mhm.
There's always the wild card guys who just they
negotiate their rate, find a place to be, work under that space, and are good with it, and make sure that they study to show themselves approved, and no one has a complaint, and they do what they got to do. Even if someone has a complaint, they do what they have to do.
Yeah.
And so you have to pay them because they're doing what they're supposed to do, just like the plumber, just like the electrician, just like the carpenter, just like anybody with a skilled trade. And I understand some people want to always go with the collegiate route and say, well, I have a doctorate degree in this, that, and third, and I have no problem with you doing that. But what I say musically is that you must always remember that outside of that, you still have to prove that you understand the knowledge base, meaning in a proving way, not just in a, I know how to say this. You still got to play it.
Yeah.
If you can't play it.
Application is key.
If you can't play it.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? A piece of paper? It's just standing on your wall? What is
But
it
if you
doing?
can play it, you need to be paid to play it. Period.
Whether you got the degree or not.
Yeah.
Because I think functionality beats credentials all day. If you're not if there's no utility in your credentials, then it's worthless. I don't care how much money you paid for it. It's worthless. There's no utility to it.
Yeah.
It's just you could burn it up and nothing would change.
Yeah.
I understand, but I'll even give you your degrees. I give you that as long as you can always apply it.
Yeah.
Do not think that if you cannot apply it, that you should try to charge any kind of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
I know some people would tell you, well, fake it till you make it. Yes, you should fake it till you make it. But do not charge the greatest rate in the world, because what you then turn into is the case for them to say why we shouldn't pay musicians.
Yeah, somebody who actually does do what they're supposed to do and know how to apply it comes after you and then has to suffer the backlash of what you put forth before them.
So it is a two-way street, but it has to be fair in a world that doesn't know what fair means.
Yeah, that phrase "for the glory of God" is.
Well, I think there's been a whole this is. I know I go down a whole rabbit hole when I say this, so I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave it. The biggest problem in the church, or maybe in the black church, and when I say the black church, I mean in the diaspora of the black church, meaning West Indian, African as well, Seventh-day Adventist, the Haitian culture, it doesn't matter, but in that aspect, we have done a disservice to our musicians, and not only our musicians, but to all the people in the church, because you're so used to tribal colonialism based off of what maybe America says or Eurocentric aspect, but even then, the white churches have admitted to this, but we are so ashamed to deal with saying things are what they are that we don't want to deal with it. So to say churches are partially a business.
It's busyness. You're actively doing things.
Taboo. It's so taboo. Even as we say it, it's felt as if it's taboo when it should never and should not have been. It should have been always honest. If you were always to be honest, it would be accepted and understood that the lights don't go on unless you pay an electric bill. You cannot think that the church has unlimited toilet paper based off of free. You think the government gives the churches free toilet paper? No, they gotta pay it so that you can wipe your behind every Sunday. And I know, well, we're not talking about, we're not in the church, so we're talking freely. But yeah, so you can wipe your behind every Sunday. You don't think that doesn't come at cost?
Yeah. Everything that's in that
or
building.
Or even the nasty
something.
tofu that I didn't want to eat. It costs something to somebody.
Yeah, but that rice though, that's 70 Adventist rice be tight.
Either way.
The tofu.
Either way.
Veggie meat.
I know I sound like I attack the church, but truth be told, I'd rather defend the church because I hear so many people always go after the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is they should not go after the church.
Yeah.
They might have had an experience that they don't understand. But what I will say is that it should be open and honest conversation that it is a business.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do anything for free.
Yeah.
You cannot do anything for free. You cannot go into a bakery and say, give me a cupcake and just expect to get a cupcake.
Exactly.
It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
Even if they did give you a cupcake, someone took a loss. The bakery took a loss. They spent for flour. They spent for it all.
Them ladies who at the church who cook the food and everybody's
Their
eating
time.
their time, and sometimes a lot of times the church ain't give them no money. They volunteer. This is money coming. They bring as an offering. This is money that their families are not seeing to bring in.
Now think of it this way:
the fact that people expect it just to happen magically
is
ridiculous.
Every week, and then every once and again, you have a week where it's like, well, we want you to cook every single day of this week, and we're not gonna pay you for nothing. None of it.
What's the grocery bill?
If that was your
nobody
mother,
asks you.
If that was your mother, after a while you would say, "Ma, enough is enough. You're being taken advantage of."
And I know there's some guys who've had fights there with their wives over this kind of stuff. It's like, wait a minute, I'm working all these hours to bring this money in. You not only you paying tithes and offering, but you're buying all this food and it's not staying in my house.
Well, that's one example.
You know what I'm saying?
But flip it. Now imagine if you were the musician and your wife has been waiting for you to be home. You already work a 9 to 5. You already work 60 hours because let's keep it real and funky. In New York City, anybody could lie if they want to. But anybody that really is trying to do something and actually work and pay bills and do what they need to
40
do,
hours
know that you're working more than 40 hours a week.
40 hours.
You got to in order to even do anything to scratch the surface. But then on top of that, now you're going to give up your time and you're going to do what you're going to do, which is a great sacrifice. But let's keep it funky. You give up all of your time to now go and play. You give up all your time to now go and rehearse. You give up all your time to now make sure you're there in service. And you're supposed to do all of that for free. And nobody cares about what detriment it would cause to you, to your wife, to your children. Because let's keep it real. You still need to spend time with your children. And let's not even forget that. We're talking about the time that people account for. Meaning when you actually see me. Not the I'm home practicing the songs.
Getting ready.
So this 30
or
minutes.
communicating with
Or
other
communicating
leaders.
with all these other leaders.
Meetings, Zoom meetings, or in-person meetings, all of that.
And you don't think that would cause a problem with your wife? Because remember, this is about building your family as well. Remember, it's not, I don't want to say church is just a business, because it's not.
No.
It's a totality of the slice of the real life. So yes, you have business, but you also have family, and you also have community. And if you mix all, and as well as spirituality.
That's number one.
Now, if you were able to put all those together, you'll see a whole complete picture. The problem is we don't want to do the whole complete picture. If we started working on the whole complete picture, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because everybody in the community would be in church. And everybody in the church would make sure that they pay what they paid. And the musicians would get what they need to and take care of their families. And where they can't take care of their families, because the community is so on point, community will help take care of the family. And if somebody needed prayer, everybody would be able to pray with each other.
But what you get is a lot of spiritual talk, a lot of prayer, and
I don't like that this one is doing this one, so I should be doing this. That's what you get. That's what you get. I don't know nothing about putting up. Well, I do know something. I don't know anything about.
And we're not just talking about one denomination.
No. This is universal.
This is universal.
This is not an attack on any specific church.
But that Seventh-day Adventist rights is tight. I love it. I just gotta say that, yo. That joint is tight.
It depends on where you go, because there are some places I have been. And I'm not even against 7 Day Adventists, because I have had some tight rights, but I have some that was not.
Bro.
I've had some in Brooklyn, off of Utica, that was like, this is not. This is. This, you should not be feeding this to people. But what I will always say, you have to speak up, because people don't know that your head hurts until you say that your head hurts.
You're right.
it would be great in an ideal society if that were the case, but the truth of the matter is, if you're given a goods for service, you should be paid for the goods for service, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do they do that in the white church? Yes, they do, because they pay. They pay, and if they don't pay, then that ain't where you need to be. But they pay if they're right.
Yeah.
So don't make.
Here's another thing. This is not just white churches, but American churches, more gospel churches or CCM churches.
Yeah.
You get paid for rehearsals. Not all of them, but majority, you get paid for your time at rehearsal.
Yep.
So your wife and whoever has less problem with you being at rehearsal because you're bringing something back to the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you as well. It's less tasking to have to deal with people. The amount of personalities you have to deal with. Being a musician with singers, I've had singers get mad at me because I told them that you're singing this note, you're flat right here. We're at rehearsal, let's go back and catch an attitude because they get praised so much for being such a great singer. How dare you tell me I'm flat?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're flat.
Even if they're not real
I
singers.
don't care.
Yeah.
Even if they're not real singers,
Yes.
I deal with that a lot.
Like, people take everything personally. It's like, wait a minute. We're doing this for the glory of God.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a wrong note and it's interfering with what's going on, I have to be accountable and say, okay, I got to fix this if somebody says it to me, if I don't catch it first.
Yeah.
Just the same if you're a singer. If you're singing and you're flat or you're sharp or you're changing the key when we started on this key, for some reason when we get to the chorus, your voice goes to wherever.
Yeah.
Hey, as the musician who has more musical experience than you, who actually plays an instrument, I'm not saying most singers don't play an instrument, but
no, we're not talking to singers. We're not talking to singers.
Yeah.
Let's clarify.
There we go.
Because singers will they work with us just like we work with them.
Yes.
It's no war. It's no nothing about that. But there are people in church who sing. That's the best way to put it.
Yes.
That don't understand that if they don't hear themselves correctly, or if we sounded how they sounded on our instruments,
it would be a problem.
We would be banished.
Ooh, self-inventory. Absolutely, man.
Yes, because imagine because what we do is and Cloud has witnessed this, we could start a song in B flat and they can move to D and we're going to move to D. And we can be in D and they're going to move to A.
Yes.
And we're going to move to A and then they're going to go to F and we're going to move to F. But if I played the way that's, I didn't mean to make it personal, but I guess I did. If I played the way that some people sung, you would think I was having a stroke on the piano, and you would say he should not be playing.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Now, the fact that we do move in the way that we move is exactly why we should be paid. We're paid
because we cover so much of your mess,
and you don't even realize it.
Some choirs, I would wish they stopped doing breaks because as soon as the music stops, as soon as the music stops, the crowd actually hears you now, and they're like, "Oh, the organ was playing,
was covering a lot of it up."
Yes, soloists as well, because some of y'all, I don't. Not gonna be the dead horse. But being a musician at church or outside of church is definitely not for the faint of heart, because you deal with a lot. And there's some other things I wanted to say, but
we're almost at an hour and a half. That's why I'm like,
I know. So I'm like, but you guys will catch us on the next time. This is the Wild Music Podcast, the music conversations you want. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, check out Musicians Local _
musicians_local on Instagram and musicianslocalnyc.com for all your music needs. They have everything from a DJ, the singers, the bands, the individual musicians, everything you need for any event, weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, I don't know what else, restaurant gigs, lounges, whatever you need, they'll have somebody for you. All right. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Yo.